Absolutely. So for the last 20 years, my beautiful wife, Ange, and I have been investing in residential real estate, mostly small multifamily, so fourplex, fiveplex type stuff. Um, we raised the money for down payment and closing cost with investors that I met through networking events such as the ones at RAIN, the Real Estate Investment Network, which is a networking organization up here in Canada. I'm also a police officer. I have been a police officer for the last 32 years. My first 11 years was with the Ontario Provincial Police in various locations all over Ontario. But for the last 21 years, I've been with the Rama Police, policing Casino Rama and the Rama First Nation, and getting close to retirement. Looking forward to having some free time and reinventing myself and maybe dabble into the realm of triple net lease commercial real estate.
I love it. Thanks for giving us that background. So you said that you've been investing for over 20 years along with your wife and, been a police officer for now 32 years. And you have this unique strategy where you do these joint ventures on these 4 to 5 unit properties, working with other investors that you meet at various networking groups and using that capital and partner with them to buy these properties. So I want to start there. What kind of sparked you to say, hey, you know what? We can buy these properties and partner with other people and put together these deals. Talk to us about kind of the early stages of those collaborations.
So it was early 2001, we bought our first property. We took some courses that weren't necessarily, Canadianized, for lack of a better term. So we got into some financial issues and financial trouble because I had, 3 properties. Most of the apartments were vacant and need a renovation. I was out of money, out of credit, out of time. And a mentor who I had been working with, Darren Weeks, he said, you got to come to Toronto for one more seminar. And my wife was not into it. So I went. She told me not to sign anything, buy anything, or do anything without checking with her first. I said, yes, dear, of course I'll do that. I went down to the seminar. I met a guy named Don Campbell who wrote a book called Real Estate Investing in Canada, and he had a list of the top 10 towns economically to invest in. So he talked about Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge. He talked about the Junction area, Toronto. He talked about Hamilton. He talked about Whitby, Oshawa, Pickering. And then I thought to myself, well, at least I know where I should have been investing, because I was pretty much done. I was on the brink of bankruptcy. And then he said, if you're investing in these number one area, you are going to have a long run of equity appreciation and rental increase, and a lot of good things were going to happen. And he mentioned that those were areas where the Barrie and Orillia area. And that's the area that we're in. And I got so excited and reinvigorated and re-enthused to continue investing and just persevere through the issues that we were having. So I joined RAIN in 2003, and that's when things really started turning around. So we were out of money, out of credit, but what we did bring to the marketplace was our knowledge and expertise of 2 years of some hard lessons learned about investing. And a lot of people bought into that because strategically, or more geographically, we were living within the areas that people from Toronto wanted to invest in, being Barrie and Orillia. So, what I learned from RAIN, Real Estate Investment Network, was to joint venture with people that, have capital to invest, but don't necessarily have the time or the inclination to learn how to do this. So they put their money with me. I find a deal and I, make the offer, negotiate all the details. And then after we close, I do everything. I collect the rents. I deal with delinquencies. I deal with maintenance issues, calling contractors to work on our behalf and make sure the properties are maintained. My beautiful wife does a financial statement for our investor, and we can report to them either on a monthly basis or quarterly basis or biannual basis, whatever their preferences are. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, first of all, just for anyone who's in a similar situation. I mean, you said something I think that stood out. You said you were out of money, out of credit, and out of time. And I mean, those are that's a tough position to be in, right? When you don't have those three things going for you, or none of those three things going for you. And one of the ways you ultimately pulled yourself out of that was to recognize that you could partner with other people. And I think that's the beauty of commercial real estate in particular here in the United States, and in Canada may have some different rules there. But in short, you can partner with people. And even if you
Absolutely.
have your own limitations financially or through credit or availability, you can put together a team of people. You can partner with other folks who can solve those challenges to do deals. And that's exactly what you were able to do. So you started to find investors who were based in Toronto who wanted to invest in these markets of Orillia and Barrie, you said?
Yeah,
Barrie?
Barrie and Orillia.
So I'm being thrown off because the way it's spelled and the way we say Barrie, it looks nothing like what I would have guessed. So, but yes, Barrie and Orillia.
All good,
So
John. It's all good.
but you're finding these investors who are happy that you are local, your boots on the ground. You can find the property, you can oversee the property. And that is a great insight for anyone looking to get some traction. If you know an area, you know a market that is desirable, you can find other people who may not have the time or energy to do everything it takes to be a successful investor in that market, but you can partner with those individuals. And by attending events, by networking and building up that the network of people you can work with, that opens up these options to you. So that really gave you the chance to go out and buy more properties because you now had this access to capital that you didn't have when you were making those mistakes starting out.
That's right.
Yeah. So what got you interested in real estate in the first place? Because you talked
Uh,
about this mistake, but I'm curious of, how did you get started here?
so when we moved to Orillia, I was working as an OPP officer, and I came home one evening, and there were some well-dressed people in our kitchen and living room, and some guy drawing circles on a whiteboard, and that was my introduction to the networking business of Amway, or back then it was called Quickstar. The difference between me and some of the other prospects that they had is I actually read the books. I went to the seminars. I listened to the audios, which were on cassette tape. That's how long I've been around. And I started learning some basic fundamentals on sales and marketing, but also on having a business acumen. And, my wife eventually pulled me out of that business because while I was able to cold contact people and travel all over the greater Toronto area, prospecting people to show them the plan, we didn't make a whole lot of money in that business. And at the time I told Ange, I says, you can take me out of this business, but my mind has been expanded like this. And now you want me to make it go like that. And I just can't do it. Roughly around that time was when we seen a TV infomercial for a company that was coming to put on some real estate seminars in Mississauga, which is just west of Toronto. So I said, I don't know for sure, but I think we can do that. And that's when I got interested in real estate investing specifically.
Talk to us about the transferable skills that you learned, working in that Amway company to what you do now with real estate investing.
So one of the things that I was able to do was get out of my own way for success. So cops are naturally introverts if they're not working. They don't want to talk to people, they don't want to see people. But reading the books, listening to the audios, getting sales training that I did, I was able to break out of that thick shell that I was keeping myself trapped in. So I was able to talk to people and talk about their where they're from and their family and what they do for fun and their work, and then inevitably the conversation leads to money. And it's like, well, how do you invest your money? And then that salesmanship that I learned in networking was totally transferable into real estate investing, particularly with the deals that I was getting. I was locating deals with tremendous positive cash flow. One of my most notable deals from 2005 was 38 townhouses in a 45-unit townhouse complex up here in Orillia. And at the time, I had an offer contract in place to purchase all 38 townhouses for $107,000 a door. That sounds like a miracle price, but that's what the price was back in 2005. They rented out for $1,000 a month per door on average. And by taking this deal, packaging it up and some brochures and pamphlets. And I was able to sit kneecap to kneecap with fellow investors from the Real Estate Investment Network at a RAIN meeting and pitched a deal. So I pitched a deal. I told them, you can put up the money for down payment closing costs, and then I'll look after everything else. I'll be on site. I'll be driving by the property when I'm working, whatever you think. And, it worked out to be a really great deal. And we sold off the last of those homes just around the time that the pandemic started to hit. So it was a good ride. It was a good run.
So you said you bought it for about $107,000 a door. What did you sell that last unit for?
So I sold the last unit. I think sold for $350,000.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was more than triple what what we originally purchased them for. We did sell ones and twos on the ride up through the equity appreciation, but inevitably I was able to improve my credit, and I was able to qualify mortgages in 2015, and we purchased 11 investors out of 11 of the properties. There was 22 of the homes of the 38 left. A subsequent investor that I brought into the deal purchased me out of 11, and I bought the remaining 11 and purchased out investors. So it was just a home run all around. And I realized that that might be a little disheartening for the listeners, but when was the best time to invest in real estate? Well, maybe 20 years ago. When's the next best time to invest in real estate? Right now.
I love it. I love it. Let's break that deal down a little bit more, because as you talk about, paying out investors and things like that, to structure the deal seems a little complex. So maybe just walk us through that. How did you structure the deal from an equity standpoint? And, how did you play that out when you were ready to exit some of those investors?
So let's say the purchase price was just an even $100,000, and up in Canada back at that time, you could get a conventional mortgage for 75% of that, or $75,000. So my investors would put up the $25,000 for down payment and closing costs, and then together we would go on title. So personally, I didn't go on title right away. We organized a corporate entity to go on title, and the investors that I had that were able to qualify mortgages qualified those mortgages through that corporate entity. And eventually over time, we were able to refinance and pay out those investors. But all that is drafted and drawn into a legally binding joint venture agreement, or the real legal term is called a co-tenancy and trust agreement. So a co-tenancy and trust agreement outlines who does what, all the parties involved, who contributed money, who didn't contribute money, what the duties of the participants are. Like, for example, I was the operations manager, so I was responsible to make sure that the property operated smoothly on a day-to-day basis. And that provides security for the investor, because not only do they have an agreement that's binding and in writing and legal, we can also they also have the option to register a lien on the legal title, saying to the world, hey, we have this joint venture agreement in place, and if you want to encumber our title, you have to deal with this first.
Yeah, good points there. As far as the equity, how was that split? Did you guys do 50-50, or was weighted one way? Okay.
So when we purchased the property, my investors would put up the money for down payment closing costs. I would find the deal, put up the deal, and in some cases I put up my credit to qualify a mortgage and go on title with them. In a lot of cases I didn't. So I think that answers the question you're asking.
Yeah. So, but how did you split profits? How did they get their money back? Yeah.
So, for example, we bought it for 100. In my hypothetical quasi-real example, bought it for 100. It goes up to 200. So when we sell, the investor gets back their 25,000 first, and then the new equity, or the new 100,000, is split 50,000 to the investor and 50,000 to us.
There you go. So there you go. It's great. Pretty easy and clean way to do it, right? They put up the money, they take that initial risk, you manage the property, and then they get paid back their initial investment, and then whatever profits are left, you're splitting 50-50. A
Yeah,
pretty
that's right.
easy, proposal if you are looking to talk to folks who are interested in investing. It's a pretty fair and easy way to structure it. Did you have any other clauses or anything else involved in case either the deal didn't work out or to give them a certain return or anything like that, like a pref?
Yeah, there is a ton of contingencies in the co-tenancy and trust agreement, and too many to mention. But
Right.
yeah, of course, there's protections in there for both investors, and essentially what we're doing when we get the lawyer to draft one of those things is we're designing the divorce in advance, so there's no question on who gets what when this deal is done.
I think it's a great way to think about it. Start with the exit, design the divorce in advance, think through the issues, the challenges, the things that could come up, lay it out, and then you are ready to go and you kind of know what happens when that's if and when that situation does arrive. As you think about maybe those early deals and kind of the way you structure deals now, is there anything that's different or anything you learned along the way that you do differently?
Well, the last few deals that we did, they were all just us because we had enough equity and cash to do them. So you know, joint venture investing or being the expert side of an investment where you're not putting in money, but you're putting up your expertise. It's a means to an ends, right? Like I do have an investor couple that still remain one of our key investors in a half a dozen properties, and they want to remain with us, and that's great. That's fine, but inevitably, we will probably sell out of those as well.
So your vision long term is not necessarily continue working with investors. It's really more of a matter of, kind of building out your personal portfolio, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we want to build a legacy of positive cash flow through real estate investing that we could eventually pass on to our kids and their kids. And I want our picture on the mantle to say, wow, I'm so glad that our grandfather or great great grandfather did this in his early years.
Yeah, I think it's great because we talk to so many investors who are looking to kind of build up their investor database and work with investors. And that's the goal, right? There is no goal of, hey, I just want to manage my own property. So you kind of took the approach to say, hey, I need to work with investors starting out because you were out of credit, out of money, and out of time. So you did that. But ultimately, you started to build it up in a way where you could take on a little bit more ownership. You could buy out those investors. And in future deals, you may no longer need them. And I think there are multiple ways to be a successful investor. And that's a strategy that we don't get to talk about a whole lot. So I'm very happy that this is something that you're using and you're employing for your investing strategy right now. And again, just another way to think about the business. If you really want to run your own properties and you don't want to manage or work with investors long term, you can look at what Jules is doing and implement a lot of these strategies for yourself. Now, Jules, I know one thing that you all are working on right now. You have this bed and breakfast that you purchased. Tell me a little bit more about that deal.
So on one of our anniversaries, Angie and I traveled down to Las Vegas for a 4-day getaway, and I wasn't done. I needed more time. I didn't want to come back to Canada right away, so we rented a car. We drove down to Phoenix, and Angie jumped on her phone and found us a place to stay in a bed and breakfast just outside of Phoenix. So we went and stayed, and we stayed in this bedroom, and it was a beautiful, grandiose house with a big backyard and a pool and a deck, and all the amenities that we needed. And the host was tremendous. She was so great. We went to the Haunted Hamburger. We went to downtown Phoenix. We went to lots of Mexican restaurants. We had a really good time. And unbeknownst to me, my wife Angie really became enamored with the idea of being able to live in a residence that's built and renovated beautifully, rent out the other rooms so that we would in essence have our financial independence. So I can tell you, it was a little shaky at the start because of the 2-year pandemic we just had to endure with supply chain issues and labor shortages and writing checks that kind of just grew legs and walked away. But we got through all that. We had a vision that was cohesive. We were together. We were in this, And once I got on board with Angie, all the challenges, all the obstacles, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. This deal was getting done. So we purchased the house, we renovated it, and essentially all we need is $2,700 a month to carry our mortgage payment, property tax payment, and insurance payment. And the corporate entity that operates as the bed and breakfast rents from us. And yeah, so we basically are living mortgage payment, property tax, and insurance free. And it's a nice position to be in. The house is just beautiful. If you look on www.cavanaughhouse.com, you just run the gallery video and you'll see what I'm talking about.
And Jules, you live in this house. This is your primary residence, or this is just an
Yes.
investment property? Okay, so you
No,
live in this house
we
as
live in
well.
this house. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I'm
I
in
think
my office our office right now, and everything that as far as the house that portion I guess rented out is just on the other side of the wall, and we have a grandiose dining room and parlor, and then 4 rooms that we rent out on a short-term rental basis.
so. I think there are people who are very intrigued by short-term rentals, whether it be bed and breakfast or Airbnb. And most of the people I speak with, they're looking to do an investment property or a separate property. And the thought of doing it in a home that you live in, with people coming in, maybe strangers and things like that, feel like it could be, just a different vibe that most people may not be willing to accept. What are some of those parameters you use to kind of both screen and just kind of set up their home so that you can have your own home and have that privacy while still hosting other guests?
Well, we have it sectioned off, so if we do have guests, we can close a couple of doors and lock the door so that we have our privacy and we maintain our privacy. But I got to tell you, like once we finished the renovation and we were able to tour around and see how beautiful the thing was, I was like, man, I don't really want to rent this place out. I just want to live in it and live in a really cool house. But it is what it is. For long-term investing, I'm still a big believer in the old buy and hold strategy. So most of my favorite properties I've bought turnkey, fully renovated off of other contractor developers in Orillia. They finished a project. They don't want to be a landlord. They don't want to deal with tenants, but I do, and I'm okay with that. So I purchased this property, and sometimes back in just pre-pandemic around 2017, we purchased a fourplex, for example, and we paid $545,000 for this 4-unit apartment building. And now that same building's worth anywhere 1.1 million, 1.2 million. I see some listings going up into the 2 million range. It's just crazy. But if I had hesitated and I tried to waste everybody's time and bid the seller down on his price, and we wouldn't have had the opportunity and the good opportunities that we have now, or we're enjoying now, that we did take the chances on.
Yeah, having that long-term view gives you more flexibility, especially if you're buying in the right areas. And I think that just comes back to where you started. If you can figure out the right markets to invest in, holding long-term in these desirable locations is going to pay off. And you can weather temporary storms. I mean, there's always going to be some corrections and some setbacks and all of that. But if you're buying based on the fundamentals, you can weather all of that. Just talk to us a little bit about that, right? What was it about these 2 areas in particular, Orillia and Barrie, that had such great fundamentals where not only were you excited because you were there, but a lot of these other Toronto investors and other people in general were excited to invest in these markets?
So picture Toronto as kind of like the center of the lake, the center of the universe, as Toronto people like to call themselves. And you drop a rock in the center of that, and then the ripple, goes out. So we're about a 90-minute drive from downtown Toronto. So all the jobs, all the high-tech jobs, all the financial jobs, manufacturing, transportation improvements, all that stuff ripples out to places like Barrie and Orillia. So we have a population of, for lack of a better term, city dwellers that are coming out, and they look at the houses in Barrie and Orillia and they think, wow, I can rent, a whole house for $2,000 a month, whereas in Toronto downtown, I can only rent a bachelor, a 200 square foot bachelor for $2,000 a month. Like it's quality of life, and employment opportunities are abound right now. We have Hydro One that just moved into the area, and that is the hydro provider for the province of Ontario. So that's about 150 high-paying jobs. We have OPP headquarters, which is the provincial police or state police, for lack of a better term. They employ about 1,200 people. They have their headquarters here in Orillia. And then across the lake, we have Casino Rama, which just reopened, and they have a staff of about 1,000 people. So there's good job opportunities. Relative to Toronto, the real estate here is still pretty cheap. And we live right between two lakes, Lake Simcoe and Lake Couchiching. So there's a tremendous amount of recreation activities and possibilities for the people that move here.
Listen, you just gave some great insights, and everyone may not be close to those markets, but there are some things that I think are universal for anyone trying to find great places to invest. So you talked about being a ripple effect from Toronto, being 90 minutes away. So being near a major urban center, right, is one of the first things to look for there. The second is what jobs are there. You mentioned the firm that's, just opened up, new companies coming in there. So what employers are there? The third thing was affordability, particularly if you're close to that urban center. If you could be a more affordable option, then people are always going to be looking to save money, right? So you can be affordable while still making a nice profit. And then the lifestyle, being close to lakes. What kind of lifestyle are people looking to live? What do you have to offer? Is it restaurants? Is it, casinos? Is it lakes? Is it mountains? Whatever it is, what's going to be appealing where someone wants to live there because of the access to that sort of lifestyle? So those are some tremendous insights right there that sometimes we don't quantify or qualify quite as much. And you can know intuitively that, hey, this is a really nice place. But I think just looking at it and putting it into those buckets makes it really a little bit easier for someone to say, okay, what's appealing about this neighborhood versus maybe another neighborhood? And then you can stack them side by side and figure out the best places to invest. Jules, just great insights, right, so far. And I want to thank you for sharing all that. For folks who want to learn more about you, one, they can go to Kavanaugh House and check out the beautiful home that you all have built up there. But then also you are on Instagram at mckenzie.jules. So if you want to follow on Instagram, you can reach out at mckenzie.jules. We are now going to go to our round of insights. You ready?
Oh, here comes. Okay.
All right. Jules, give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Failure. Well, I guess it would be my financial challenges early on in my investing career, trying to take on too many rental projects and not having enough capital to do that. I know not to make that mistake. And most of the properties I buy now are turnkey anyway.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Well, there's a few of them. Up here, we have what they call Kijiji, and it's kind of an online virtual marketplace. Just talking about online marketing, I mean, Facebook Market is an excellent place to either find homes for sale or investment properties for sale, or find tenants to rent your apartments out to.
Give me the book you've recommended the most or gifted the most in the last year.
Well, I'm reading this book right now by an individual named Dave Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. Holy smokes. That, I was kind of feeling a little flat, coming out of the pandemic and all the isolation we had to experience. And this thing is just, getting me re-enthused for life and just getting out and kick some ass again. So, I just got it. I knew about it for quite a while, but I just got the book and it's tremendous. That's the only thing that I can think of right now.
It's a great book. And I will tell you, if you can, there is an audio version, and the audio version basically has a podcast episode after each chapter where he goes into more detail. So I listened to it. It's like 12 hours, so it will take some time. but
that's terrific.
thoroughly, it's so entertaining. I mean, you'll enjoy it. It's worth it. So if you can, and he goes into even more detail than what he gives in the chapter. So it's really cool getting that behind the scenes of it. But great book there. All right, so give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
I typically get up around 5:30 in the morning, and I just have some quiet time for my reading for one. And then I quickly scan financial papers, online papers. So Financial Post, the Globe and Mail are Canadian papers that I look at. I also check out BNN, and I even jump on television and watch a little bit of CNBC just to get a feel for what's going on in the marketplace. I also share articles that I find would be interesting to either my fellow investors or people investing in real estate in general. Mind you, they are more geographically appropriate to the Ontario market up here in Canada. And just to top that off, I am on Twitter at Mr. Jules Mckenzie, spelled MrJulesMckenzie, where I share my articles.
All right, awesome. Give me, so we did the daily habit. Sorry, I used to have them up here. Now I just blanking. We just did daily habit. Oh, all right. Give me your number one insight for investing.
Number one insight for investing: cash flow is everything. So I'm not going to buy something and be one of those that speculates that the thing's going to go up in value and I'll be able to sell it and make all kinds of money. There is a run up in equity, and I understand that, but what happens if that doesn't happen? You're going to be carrying that property, so you want to make sure that the income you collect on a monthly basis exceeds the amount of expenses you got to pay for on that property on a monthly basis.
Great tips there, Jules. All right, we're going to lighten the mood. You run a bed and breakfast, and the second part of that requires you to have a sense of some good food options. So give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat. My
favorite place, holy smokes, we were down at the Keg the other night for our 26th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
It was amazing. Do you have Keg in the U.S.?
Not to my knowledge, but
so
we'll have to look it up.
It's an upscale steakhouse is what the Keg is. So it's kind of like a 5-star restaurant. And every once in a while, Angie and I will just kind of sneak out, get away from everybody, and go treat ourselves. And that's what we did a few nights ago.
I love it. Well, congratulations on your anniversary, and we'll surely link to the Keg in our show notes here. Jules, really enjoyed our conversation today, listening to kind of your early stories. Starting off as a police officer, trying to figure out the entrepreneurial side hustle thing, starting with the Amway approach to, getting into real estate and, struggling a little bit early on those deals, and then realizing you could partner up with people and do these joint venture type deals where now you don't have to rely solely on your own money and your own credit, and then eventually build it up where you can go back to doing your own deals, which you're doing now with your bed and breakfast and beyond. So appreciate you sharing those insights with us today. We hope you have a good one, and we look forward to staying in touch with you.
Thanks a lot, John.